From a billion-dollar takeover to some ridiculous NFL records, these are insane NFL facts that you won't believe. The NFL makes more money than any other sports league in the entire world. The numbers are flat out crazy. In 2022, the NFL generated over $18 billion in revenue. Just for perspective, that's more than the NBA and English Premier League combined for last year. And the craziest part is that these teams only play once per week and 17 times in the regular season. Meanwhile, NBA teams play 82 games in a season. How the hell does the NFL do it? Well, a ton of their money comes from television. Cause who doesn't love planting their butt in a lazy boy all day eating cheesy nachos and watching some football? In 1962, CBS paid $4.65 million for the first ever exclusive rights to broadcast NFL football games. But that total didn't cover the NFL championship. NBC had to pay an additional fee of just under $1 million for the rights to broadcast that one game. Just to compare, YouTube, owned by Alphabet, just agreed to pay $2 billion per season for NFL Sunday Ticket. And corporations pay $7 million for a 30-second commercial slot during the Super Bowl. So it's not a big surprise that these networks have some extra change kicking around to pay for TV talent. We all hear about huge contracts for NFL players, but how about analysts? Turns out they do pretty damn well too, especially the ones that are highly sought after. And no one is more desired than the greatest quarterback in NFL history, Tom Brady. After Tom Brady retired, he immediately signed a contract with Fox Sports for 10 years that will pay him $37.5 million per year. Holy hot goat doo-doo.
Huh?
That's a lot of cash. In fact, it's more than Tom Brady ever made as an NFL player. During the prime of his career, Brady never signed a contract that paid him more than an average of $25 million per year. Damn, how much money does that guy need? I mean, I sit around watching football shouting at my TV all day for free. I need my contract. But I get why Fox would pay Brady. Who else would fans want to hear talking about football than the greatest player of all time? And he would be especially fun to watch during the Super Bowl. In America, we all love gambling on sports, and we love chicken wings and nachos. That's why the Super Bowl is the ultimate event of sheer gluttony in the USA. Over 50 million Americans bet on the last Super Bowl. That is a massive amount of the population. I wager I need to loosen my pants over here too. We're in this together, America. Speaking of gambling, the largest point spread in NFL history was back in 1976 when the Steelers entered a game against the Buccaneers as 27-point favorites. A betting man might look at the spread and think that it must have some value, but those bettors don't realize that the Bucs played like a pile of hot garbage during the entire 1976 season. Their quarterback, Steve Spurrier, threw a total of 7 touchdowns all year long. And guess what? The Steelers didn't just cover the spread, they shattered it but won the game 42-0. That's just embarrassing. But not as embarrassing as watching our videos without subscribing to our channel or hitting that like button. I mean, we know you're there, but what's even more embarrassing is devoting your life to the Cards. There might be no worse existence than that of an Arizona Cardinals fan. Do you know that the Cardinals currently have a losing drought dating back to 1948? That is 75 years without having a reason to celebrate. They came close in 2009 before Ben Roethlisberger and Santonio Holmes shattered their dreams in the big game. Could you imagine being a diehard Cards fan born in 1948? You're probably moving into an assisted living seniors home, haven't taken a trip to Pound Town in a decade, and are wondering if you really could live your entire life without seeing your team win even once.
I hate you! How is that even that 2 times in one freaking season?
It's hard to imagine a team losing for that long, when so many different players have come and gone trying their best to win. Meanwhile, poor grandpa is sitting around the multi-purpose room waiting for a win. Ugh. Okay, let's get to number 14. We all know that the NFL is an extremely violent sport and that careers tend not to last particularly long. That's why only 12 players in NFL history have played over 300 games. But not all positions are as physically demanding. So 9 of those 12 players were either punters or kickers. That leaves only 3 non-kicking players in league history that have suited up for over 300 games. Those players are Brett Favre, Tom Brady, and Jerry Rice. Freaking legendary. But do you know what's even more physically demanding than playing offense in the NFL? Playing D. While we're on the subject of players with long careers, the longest career of any defensive player in NFL history goes to Darrell Green. Green was a fast-as-hell little 5'9" cornerback who played 295 games, all for the Washington Redskins from 1983 to 2002. In 2001, he caught his last interception at age 41, becoming the oldest NFL player in NFL history to record a pick. The play gave him interceptions in 19 consecutive NFL seasons. Needless to say, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame after his career. And Emmitt Smith was inducted too. Cause he was an absolute beast. In 1993, Emmitt Smith wanted to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. He deserved it too. He had led the league in rushing yards in the 2 previous seasons. The Cowboys, however, seemed reluctant to meet his demands. Billionaire owner Jerry Jones was acting more like the Grinch than Santa Claus that year, but Smith wouldn't back down. He held out and remained unsigned for the first 2 games of the season. The Cowboys lost both games and eventually agreed to give Emmitt his big payday. And by the end of the year, Emmitt Smith led the league in rushing yards once again despite missing the first 2 games. Then, the Cowboys went on to win the Super Bowl with Emmitt Smith leading the way on offense. Talk about money well spent. Emmitt Smith sure made a name for himself with the Cowboys, but up next is a quarterback that changed his name just to appease his fans. Joe Theismann was one hell of a quarterback for the Redskins, but did you know that his family name is really pronounced Thiesman? However, when he was in college, the director of sports at Notre Dame convinced him to change the pronunciation of his last name to Theismann. Not because he loved chicken thighs, it was so his name would rhyme with Heisman, and the rhyme would make for a great campaign for him to win the coveted trophy. But he ended up coming second in Heisman voting to Jimmy Plunkett, though the name pronunciation stuck through his entire NFL career. And believe it or not, Theismann isn't the only player to change the pronunciation of their name either. Your beloved Kelsey brothers' last name is actually pronounced Kels, but everyone called them Kelsey everywhere they went. Eventually, the whole family grew sick and tired of correcting people and just embraced the last name Kelsey. But Travis doesn't care how you pronounce his name, he just wants credit for his touchdowns and Super Bowls. But you know who doesn't get enough credit? Kickers. So let's take a moment to shout out some crazy kicking records. If you think that NFL players today are better than those from decades prior, you are probably right. However, one legend named Sammy Baugh held some unbelievable records that defy the laws of evolution. One of those records was when he punted for an average of 51.4 yards in the year 1940. We don't know if he was hiding rocket launchers in his cleats, but that is just crazy. There have been 16 seasons in which punters averaged 50 yards per kick or more, and all of them happened since 2008. And Baugh's record held steady for 82 years before Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse broke it last year in 2022. Baugh might have punted like a superhero, but this next player could kick so hard that you almost felt bad for the footballs. In 1970, Tony Dempsey broke the record for longest field goal of all time. He set the record by hitting a game winner for the Saints to beat the Lions 19-17.
Snap, the ball is down. Dempsey kicks. It's on the way. It is. Good.
That record healed steadily all the way until 2021 when Ravens kicker Justin Tucker drilled a field goal from 66 yards out. Justin Tucker might be the kicking GOAT, but who's the real GOAT? Is the debate truly settled? When we talk about greatest players of all time, Tom Brady reigns supreme by NFL standards. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes is building up a resume in hopes of dethroning him. But maybe fans should reconsider Peyton Manning in the debate. He didn't have the longevity or the Super Bowls, but he still does hold up some major quarterback records. His 5 MVP awards are more than any other player in history. He holds the records for most passing yards in a single season and most passing touchdowns in a season. And he also might have the biggest forehead in NFL history. Now that's a legacy. But let's not forget the legends that played before him. They weren't that bad either. The year 1984 was a crazy season for NFL records. Dan Marino broke the record for passing yards in a season, Eric Dickerson broke the record for most rushing yards in a season, Art Monk broke the record for most receptions, and Walter Payton became the all-time rushing yard leader. But since that year, all of those records have been broken besides Dickerson's 2,105 yards on the ground. Speaking of records, this next one is proof that you should never give up, even if the odds are against you. History says that you want to make the playoffs in football, you have got to come out winning early and often. Unless you are the 1992 San Diego Chargers. That year, the Chargers started the year 0-4 but finished the season 11-5 and made the postseason. Of the 103 teams to ever start a season 0-4, the Chargers are the only ones that overcame the early season drought and made it to the playoffs. Those Chargers were lit, but if they lost in the playoffs, who really cares, right? I mean, some guys build legacies off losing in the playoffs. There are only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history that have started in 4 playoff games and lost them all. One is Y.A. Tittle, who ended up getting in the Hall of Fame, and the other is Andy Dalton, who most definitely won't. Andy Dalton may have looked like a fire creature from the underworld, but the only thing hellish about him were his playoff performances. Dalton has a passer rating of 57.8, with 873 yards, 1 touchdown, and 6 interceptions in 4 games in the playoffs in his career. Now that's ugly. You could blame Dalton, but did he really get enough help from his coaches? Cause these next guys prove that a good coach can make a huge difference. Don Shula has more wins than any other coach in NFL history at 328, but it's hard to tell how long that record would last. It wasn't long ago that Bill Belichick looked like he was going to shatter that record, but his pace has certainly slowed down since Tom Brady left his team. Belichick currently sits at exactly 300 wins and wants to break Shula's record more desperately than a teenage boy after getting dumped by his girlfriend. But with the way his team has played this season, he could get canned at any moment. But you know who was even more desperate than Belichick? Thurman Thomas when he lost his dome before the biggest game of his life. Thurman Thomas of the Buffalo Bills was one of the greatest running backs of his era, but his helmet got misplaced during the 1991 Super Bowl and he was forced to miss part of the game. This was likely due to his pre-game ritual that included leaving his helmet on the 34-yard line for the equipment manager to collect before the game. But on this one particularly important game, the helmet wasn't retrieved. Now, I'm far from the most organized guy on the planet. In high school, I rarely had a pencil when I needed one. But you would think that an NFL organization worth millions of dollars would have someone on the staff competent enough to make sure the team's star player had a helmet ready to go for the damn Super Bowl. Clearly, one guy isn't going to win a Super Bowl. To succeed at the highest level, you need a team with great chemistry and talented players all over the field. Just ask the 1972 Miami Dolphins. The greatest NFL team in history is the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Don Shula coached the only perfect team in NFL history. They went 14-0 in the regular season and then won all 3 of their playoff games, finishing a combined 17-0. Bob Greasy was slated to be the team's starting quarterback, but he went down with injury in Week 5. Earl Morrall took over the starting job and carried the team all the way until the AFC Championship game when Greasy entered the game after halftime and played in the Super Bowl as well. During that same season, Larry Conk and Mercury Morris became the first tandem in NFL history to each rush for 1,000 yards for the same team. The Patriots came mighty close during 2008, but David Tyree shattered their dreams with his ridiculous helmet catch in the 4th quarter. Though the 1972 Dolphins and 2008 Patriots get a lot of credit for their dominance, neither team actually holds the longest regular season winning streak in NFL history. That record actually goes to the Indianapolis Colts. If you combine the end of the 2008 season with the beginning of the 2009 season, the Colts won 23 games in a row. Unfortunately for Peyton Manning's crew, they weren't able to carry their success into the playoffs, going down in each season before reaching the Super Bowl. There you have it! Those were some insane facts about the NFL that you won't believe. If you liked it, please don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, check out one of the videos currently on your screen to keep watching DropKick.